Hey guys, today I got a rather unusual video. I was recording most of this before 1.10 patch dropped and Elden Ring was getting stale. So I went to invade in all games past month instead, and that was somewhat refreshing. I was recording invasions during that time, so you're gonna see some of them in this compilation, starting from the newest game. First invasion here is actually on a first day of 1.10 patch at level 60. This right here is one of the older builds I've made, a Nocron Monarch. Wearing a silver tail helm is kinda low appropriate here, and thanks to 8 Arcane, I can cast a big bubble at times. Otherwise, that's just a Dex int build that can do some neat combos. Buster Stars, also known as Baby Rattle, is really fun for this, allowing some setups. One of my favorite things to do is follow it up with Zamor Ice Storm. That move is relatively safe. Throw combos, pseudo combos and roll catches. This build can do all of this and feels like a Heiselpeak mage on drugs, and I love it. Moving on, I got a Lavamancer on level 45. It was tricky to feed both Blasphemous Blade and One Core at this level, so I went for double Sword Seal. And I have 10 intelligence in my flask too. Let's hold 55 more levels, accounting for other talismans too. Because of that and getting all the passive defense from it, it's not that bad, even against Ordered Phantoms. Those guys aren't very cautious about their surroundings, and I keep getting grabbed. That's fine by me because it drains FP but makes it harder to set anything up. When I was making this build, I didn't think it would be as fun as it is. At higher levels, magma sorceries were a bit of lackluster, but here they do decent damage, and they are great for creating a controlled chaos. My plan here didn't work as intended, and I'm lucky to be alive. That flame spit didn't do as much damage as I expected, but I really wanted to hit that Gilmir's Fury. Sounds like someone got grabbed once again. Then I'm not sure what happened, but Phantom was ignoring me for a couple of seconds. Another usage for Rykard's Rancor is a smoke screen, because it makes it harder to see what's happening. I drop running magma where I anticipate them to go, and that works out perfectly. I'm happy how this invasion unfolded and was won at that moment. Next we got a typical Elden Ring invasion. What I like about this situation is entirely unwinnable, that made possible by a flask of Wondrous Physic. Not sure what I could have done otherwise, just tried to heal where I shouldn't have, and my flask ran out. I'm still fine with it, pretty sure I wouldn't be able to get this close in any other game. Now we travel back to Lothric, the place where I truly delved into PvP back then. Great invasion here, on a soul level 60 Heiselpeak mage. That's the only type of caster that's fun for me in this game. Essentially, instead of R1 true combo, it's L1 into spell of your choice. I was playing a lot of Dark Souls 3 back in June, when I was on hiatus from ER, and I do miss those textbook co-invasions like this one. I don't know why they decided against implementing Thunderstone the way it was in a network test. There's only hope that we invaders gonna get something PvP related in a DLC. I'm not too hopeful though, just not to be disappointed later on. Great teamplay right here and no teamfire inside. In Elden Ring it's only possible to get invasions like this one only when you participate in the community runs. Anyhow, this invasion is now a success. as much as I wanted to get more invasions like one before, the majority looked like this, which is not surprising. This is my still level 75 edgy Corvian, and I totally did not steal this build from Pinko. One thing I added here is a frozen weapon. You don't really see this buff often, and I feel like it's underrated. I'm not talking about something filthy like Frozen Grew Sword at lower levels, but simply 10 intelligence plus Scholar Ring gives you frostbite on any buffable weapon. I also did some tumble buffed Frozen Fleet Scythe shenanigans for the memes, but it's not even that good. For some reason that weapon always felt awkward to use compared to Corvian Scythe. I guess there's something about the swings, but the weapon art goes without saying, of course. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I like Scythe in Dark Souls 3 more than Grave Scythe in Elden Ring. There's something nice to R1 into jump attack true combo, and it's very edgy. And final Dark Souls 3 invasion here happened in the Abyssal Swamp. I remember Saint made a video a few years ago about how nobody invades in this part of Ringed City, and back then I took it to heart. Still nice to revisit it though. This is my old trusty quality build. I also have a bit of faith to use Dragon Slayer Sword Spear when I wear the Faith Ring. That weapon is nice. You can see there in my menu I got a ton of different weapons, but here I almost always go for either Artorias Sword or Murakumo. The latter is one of those weapons with R1 into jump attack combos, and I always loved those. In Elden Ring, curved great swords are also in a very good place, so it's hard to pass on that. One thing I never used in Elden Ring is an off stock, partly because it's been 4 years of this, and I guess I'm sweating less than I used to. World's slowest backstab grab here, which is a trait of this weapon class. This invasion is practically done, so I sped it up. Now it's Dark Souls 2 time. For the purposes of this video, I tried to get as much variety in invasions as I could, and this game allows for that. Starting here with Invading in Dark Chasm. It's unique because this is basically PvPvE free-for-all, and I can actually use Estus here. This character is my take on Weird Hat Moonlight Guy, using hexes. The stats are something like 60 intelligence and 30 faith, and soul memory is around 3 millions. I need this much intelligence for all affinity orbs. This spell is utterly busted, and if you get hit you are dead. I am playing somewhat nice here and also go for PvE. The problem is that all of it is resistant to dark and magic damage. Spellcasting in Dark Souls 2 feels more potent than in Dark Souls 3, so I like it more here. Prime example being Firestorm and Dark Orb Spam, of course. Since Dark Souls 3 had a boner for Dark Souls 1, hexes were scrapped and we had to go back to Golden Sorceries. Also shout out to Fume Knight's sword, gotta be one of my favorite swords. I switched to it when excessive poking begins. We all love it. Dark Dance is a unique hex, almost like combined Wrath of Gods and Affinity, but it does cost 5000 souls to cast. Not ideal for an invader, but I made a save file to revert eventually. Now I changed color and I'm a blue. Really like that tint, by the way. Having similar mechanic in Elden Ring of invading invaders would have done wonders, but then again, it would be solo invasions. This guy here is clearly PvPer, and I get severely outplayed with that setup. Backsteps and parries still work though. Don't think I even have much adaptability here. This build has somewhat low soul memory. It's focused on thrusting and counter-hitting with the Leo ring. Ornstein Spear is nice and fits the stats, and in this game, Leo ring does not care about the elemental damage. I immediately re-invaded this guy because that's how blue invasions work without cooldown, and this time it's a kill by the level. I can't think of many other examples where that could happen, aside from Forbidden Woods in Bloodborne. It's a rare opportunity to meet co-opers in this game, but when I was playing last time I got a few. Lingering Flame here is one of those spells I wished might return. That one floating fireball in AR is so close yet so far. Of course, tricking people into warmth covered by time bomb never gets old, but it can just get stuck somewhere. Chaos Storm is an absolute menace. Also, I don't know how I dodged the hit there. Unfortunately for this guy, it looked like he was in hyper armor frames and got hit 2 times, getting absolutely melted. Another duo invasion, this time it's more of a dead level situation. I need to be really cautious here about my stamina and about getting smushed with that hammer. Loy's sword is the best greatsword in my opinion. It shares the most beautiful moveset of all Dark Souls 2 greatswords. The two-handed moveset is just great, works as a roll catch machine. However, to get this weapon you must face a terrible boss in the worst area. Dark Souls 2 would just let you buff most of the boss weapons, so potential damage is pretty good. I still ran out of stamina here and there, but the invasion unfolded well. Most of them end in hosts trying to chug in your face anyway. Something to finish it off is a 1v3. I have not seen that in ages, since the game was new, so I got really excited. The trap here does not work in their interest, so I played a bit of a waiting game. What happened then, I guess, one phantom missed the elevator, and it turned into 1v2. Speaking of Moonlight Sword, I don't really know how to feel about this moveset. Also, its stamina costs as shit, but one thing it has going for it is all magic damage, and powerful beams of course. Soul Greatsword does absurd damage too. This is a Havel set in a game where absorptions matter, but you'll get only 3 casts of it. Honestly, I had such a good time invading in Dark Souls 1. However, finding co-opers was problematic. Either way, there's something charming about this game. But this is also the game where I have the least PvP experience, so I know only basics. But my gameplay was always rustic in a way. Sadly, when Remastered was released, I wasn't able to play it, so I was kinda late to the party. Then people eventually went back to Dark Souls 3. I really like the lore on this character. A hollow that ventured into Duke's archives and got obsessed with Seath, and then got partially crystallized. Also, Crystalline Mask is hands down best headpiece in a game. Moonlight Greatsword is pretty good in this game. Those beams are tricky to dodge. You can also poise break people that have little or no poise when one-handing it, or perhaps medium poise when two-handing it. But you have to keep in mind that this weapon is slow, especially in Dark Souls 1. Now, I was never a fan of homing Soul Mask kind of spells, but it's not like there's many spells to choose from in Dark Souls 1. And it's also very threatening because one hit you are practically dead. I use Tin Crystallization Catalyst, and that makes it even stronger. You can also use this catalyst as a bonk stick, which is funny. Despite the magic in Dark Souls 1 being so bare bones in terms of choices, I still enjoy it. All magic schools have something that can cover weakness of your melee build, and they're just fun to play with. Dark Orb is like a high caliber rifle, for example. I make lots of mistakes here, like turning my back like this for no reason, or rolling for no reason. That's what happens when I'm not in Dark Souls 1 mindset. But I still came out victorious because this moonlight is a nightmare in the narrow spaces. I also have a Moonlight Butterfly Horn on this build, as well as Channeler's Trident. The difference is, one has all magic damage, and with the other you can emote. Oh, and I also have an enchanted falchion, because we find it here in Duke's archives, but I rarely use it. Near the end this invasion turned into backstab souls, which is often the case. I guess I could say their suffering has ended quickly. Next, this is probably the most disgusting build I've made across all games, a level 35 Pyromancer. It does insane damage, without the need of leveling any stat, so it all went into Vigor. I did not mean to get this backstab here, by the way. This Phantom is lucky for using Dragon Crest Shield, negating fire damage. This kick by a host was an absolute clutch. You are better off free-aiming Big Fireball. I also discovered that Fire Whip does tons of damage, and I've been enjoying it. Fury Sword also scales with Humanity, and it's really good, especially two-handed. Works well on wake-ups, and multi-hits in one swing against ganks. Unfortunate series of events here. I was aiming for the Phantom, but host did a Mr. President move and died in one hit. Just can't afford to be hit by this fireball. For a final invasion, this was on level 80 on my quality build. This is the first character I created when the game was released. I have beaten the whole game including the DLC and ended up at level 81. Really, I have all I need stat-wise, so I never understood the point of meta in Dark Souls 1 being so high. There's way less stats, and you get all you need: 50 vitality, high poise, fast roll, etc. And on top of that, you have to go into New Game Plus to get enough souls. This invasion was so much fun. I think it goes to show that Dark Souls 1 was a much slower, methodical game. Speaking of straight swords, Dark Souls 3 allowed you to swing 3 times, and maybe hit all 3 times even if the person rolls, just because straight swords were fast as hell. These one straight swords can do that, and honestly, they are not very good. At least I can buff Silver Knight Sword with lightning, and I do have a Black Flame as a shield opener. As an outro, with 1.10 released, I'm excited about Elden Ring again, and I've been reworking some of the builds. I still have some footage of Dark Souls 3 though, so that's gonna be for the next time. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed invasions in every game.